All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Facemask Fantasy. Hopefully, yesterday's results were kind to you. And we've got the full slate today. We'll start with the most up-to-date injury reports as it pertains to today's games. And then I can get into any questions that you guys may have. I'll just quickly touch on yesterday. I'll start with a couple of pieces of information from yesterday. Jamar Chase has been diagnosed with a separated shoulder. Not good. This could be a season ender for Jamar Chase. There's a good chance you won't be able to rely on him moving forward. Yes, the Bengals are 8-6. They are fighting for their playoff lives. They are very much in the race, especially after beating the Vikings yesterday. But if Jamar Chase has to miss any time with a separated shoulder, you're likely going to have to miss time. It's not looking good. Not for the rest of his season. Michael Pittman suffered a concussion yesterday. His availability for Week 16 is going to be in doubt. Zach Moss also had to exit the game after suffering an arm injury after scoring a touchdown. That one hurt. He was on his way to a big day. You just, see what the other backup Colts running backs did against the Steelers yesterday. You figured that would have been a decent chunk of that production would have gone to Zach Moss. But of course, he had to exit the game. We'll see about his availability next week, but I think that's when Jonathan Taylor is potentially expected back. So Zach Moss's short-term run as the starter could officially be over. To today, Tyreek Hill is expected to be a game-time decision. Obviously, you're holding out for somebody like Tyreek, but be prepared to make other plans. Let's see. Chris Godwin is expected to play today. He's not been very good this year. So he's a backup option at best. Aaron Jones is expected to play Week 15. However, A.J. Dillon is not. So Aaron Jones could see a little bit more work than he usually does. It's still volatile because we haven't seen him for a month. So it's kind of tough to chart what we can expect from Aaron Jones today. The matchup is decent enough. And with A.J. Dillon out, that would theoretically give him a boost. But it's hard to endorse Aaron Jones as anything more than a low-end RB2, high-end RB3 until we actually see more of him on the field. So I guess we'll get that opportunity today. I wouldn't necessarily be relying on him, though. Jamal Williams is expected to play, so that could cut into – it's not going to cut into Alvin Kamara's workload, but it could cap Taysom Hill a little bit as a runner. Williams is the one who had been on the injury report. Hill was cleared off of the injury report earlier this week, so maybe Hill continues to operate as like this change of pace option behind Alvin Kamara as a running quarterback. Swiss Army knife role, but Jamal Williams could cut into that a little bit. You cannot play Jamal Williams, of course, with any type of confidence. But if you were planning to stream Taysom Hill, this potentially throws a wrench into that. It's possible you don't have any other better streaming options, though. The Cardinals are expected to have their starting wide receivers. Marquise Brown and Michael Wilson are expected to play today. So that's a boost for Kyler and the Cardinals offense as a whole against a banged up 49ers defense. You are still likely firing up the 49ers defense, but this is a good sign. This is good news for the Cardinals offense as a whole. And then Jalen Hurts is still on the injury report for Monday night. He is questionable with an illness. If you have Jalen Hurts, because he has been officially downgraded today. Let me know if you have Hurts and what your alternate options are. I really don't want to pivot to Marcus Mariota if that's what it comes down to. And to be honest, I don't really want to pivot to Geno Smith or Drew Lock either. You probably don't have Geno available to you as an option, but Lock is surely available. These are not pivots that I prefer. However, Jalen Hurts is one of the few quarterbacks that you actually want to wait out to see if he's able to give it a go. So, tentatively, if you have Jalen Hurts, I would find a way to grab either Mariota or Drew Lock. What's the latest on Geno Smith? I know he has been practicing on a limited basis. Let me see. He's still listed as questionable. Okay. So if you have Jalen Hurts, I would probably grab as a precaution, unless you already have a decent alternate option to pivot to, I would grab Drew Lock because it's looking questionable that Geno Smith is able to go. And I would prefer the Eagles are giving up a ton of points to opposing quarterbacks. So that's the direction that I would prefer to go in if you have to in an emergency. And if Geno is ruled in, but Hurts is ruled out, you could still pick up Mariota, which I don't love, but a player playing is better than a player not playing. Annoying situation for Monday Night Football. So be prepared to have backup plans if you have Jalen Hurts. But this is a very dicey situation. I think those are the most recent updates. Between yesterday and today. We'll, of course, get official inactive reports in the next 20 minutes or so. So we can make any further determinations there. Okay. I can get to questions now. And I'll take this as long as folks need. Did a lot, we obviously worked through a lot of start-sit questions yesterday ahead of the 3-game slate. So not sure how many folks will be coming in today. I'll, of course, take this as long as it needs to up until the slate. So if you need to talk through anything, that's what we're here for. And then just as a reminder, I will get to any member questions first. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. Your questions will jump the line. If anybody's feeling generous enough to offer a super, you don't have to, but that would be a line jumper as well. And then I will get to everybody else. I just ask for a little bit of patience. What's going on, Iron? Good to see you, man. And of course, hopefully, any results from yesterday hopefully went in your favor. Um, Hopefully it didn't go against Sam Laporta. Holy hell. Was not expecting a 3-touchdown game from Laporta, but here we are. Hopefully you didn't go against him. If anything, hopefully you had him. I think he had to have had him, Ty Chandler. I do think I'm pretty sure I told several folks to fire up Chandler yesterday, given their options. I do recall, I think I told somebody to play Hawkinson over Laporta. So that one stings. Didn't expect a 3-touchdown game from Laporta. Expected a bigger game from Hawkinson, to be honest. He did okay, but given the matchup, I figured he would have had a larger day than he actually did. But that's okay. We still have a full slate of games to get through. There's plenty. There's plenty of time. There are plenty of matchups and situations to sort things out. By no means is anything resolved, especially if your team hasn't gone. If your matchup is in if you are currently playing somebody who has had 5 or 6 players go or 6 or 7 players go and you haven't gone yet, it might be looking bleak. But if you've got your whole arsenal, just gotta let the games play out. Gotta let the situation play out. There's no need to panic just yet. But that being said, let's get these wins. All right, Iron. Start the Cowboys or the Jets. Yeah, I mean, if Hill is out, if Achane is out, I mean, yes, we want to fire up the Jets. If both of those guys are ruled in, and it is a 1:00 game, so you'll know the situation going in. If it's a 1:00 game, or if they're ruled in, the Cowboys don't play until I think 4:25. I would say if Tyreek and Achane are active, I would pivot off of the Jets and play the Cowboys. So we'll know that situation going into the Cowboys game because the Jets game is earlier. If Achane is active, if Tyreek is active, I'm not super enthusiastic about playing the Jets defense. But if both are out, which is certainly possible, then I'm fine with firing up the Jets. Like Jalen Waddle would still be worth firing up if you have him. Raheem Mostert would be worth firing up if you have him. But outside of that, there's going to be a big drop off in talent if the Dolphins don't have Tyreek and Achane available to them. So, yeah, I would play the Jets if those guys are out. I would play the Cowboys if those guys are in. Or if even one of them is in, specifically Tyreek. If Tyreek is in but Achane is out, that would still probably be enough for me to say I'll pivot off to the Cowboys. Tyreek has been the best receiver in football this year. As far as Goddard versus Ferguson, my answer would have been Goddard, but with this news that Jalen Hurts is downgraded to questionable, dealing with an illness, I would prefer to play Ferguson. The Bills are banged up on defense. I think they're missing at least they're missing Matt Milano. They're missing they're missing their best linebacker. They're missing one of their starting safeties. This is going to be a good spot for Dallas's passing game. And I think Ferguson is a direct beneficiary of that. With Jalen Hurts availability in question, I would grab Ferguson. I would play Ferguson over Hurts. That's where I would go. Yeah. Which reminds me, I should personally look at alternate options over Dallas Goedert in one of my playoff matchups because Yeah, that situation doesn't feel very good. There may not be any other better options to turn to. That's the problem. But yes, Ferguson over Goddard. Yeah. Quiet game from Javante last night. I was worried about this matchup. I didn't think he would bottom out. He had an opportunity to get a score. He was tackled at the 1 yard line. Uh, you know, that's just the luck of the draw. With Hurts, not 100%. I don't know that I don't know that I want to go all the way down to Justin Fields in this matchup. Um, we got to I would Iron we got to take this right up to kickoff, and I know that the Bears are playing a 1 o'clock game in about an hour and a half. Meanwhile, Hurts is obviously incredibly dicey for Monday night. Let me think on that one, Iron. I can come back to that to you in Discord, but it's possible we want to pivot off of Hurts if you have an option like Fields to pivot to. Yeah, we got to think on that one. Okay, back up to the top. Zeke or James Cook? Patriots have the Chiefs. Cook has the Cowboys. In full PPR, I think I slightly prefer James Cook. It's close. Zeke is going to get a ton of volume at home. Cook is the better player at this point in their respective careers and is a greater pass catching threat. So in full PPR, that gives me a little bit more of a vote of confidence for Cook, and he's in the better offense. But Zeke will get the volume. So I would say he's maybe your safe play, and Cook is maybe more of like an upside play. Depends on what you need. If you think you need to be aggressive, maybe go Cook. If you think you could play it safe, I would go Zeke. Um, Baker, Flacco, or Lawrence, I would just roll the dice on your best talent, your best option, and that's Lawrence. Baker and Flacco are streamers. Lawrence is a regular QB1. He's more of a low end QB1 given the matchup and his situation. No Christian Kirk. Um, but I would roll with the talent and I would go with Lawrence. Um, and then between Beckham or Hollywood, Marquise Brown's been on the injury report. It's a great matchup by the numbers. Jacksonville gives up a lot of points to opposing wide receivers. I would go Odell. I would go Odell. What's going on, Crumbly Heads? Good to see you, man. I would go Cooper over Lockett. And yeah, Jalen Hurts has been downgraded to questionable. Apparently, whatever illness he's dealing with is serious enough to downgrade him on the injury report. As of right now, I really don't want to pivot off of him, but I also don't want to end up having to fire up Marcus Mariota or Drew Lock either. So we gotta take these thoughts pretty much right up to the slate. Ultimately, I don't want to pivot off of Hurts, and it's possible. Obviously, with any illness, you don't know how long it's going to linger. Um, if it's the flu or whatever he's dealing with, who knows? Um, the other thing here is that the Eagles' chances of getting a bye week or winning the division are on the line. They're at risk of losing out on that. So there's got to be some motivation from Jalen Hurts to play. There's got to be a sense of urgency from the Eagles. They have fallen out of first place. So you would think Hurts is going to do everything he can to be out there. But it's certainly dicey. It's certainly dicey, but I would go Cooper over Lockett. Um, with the uncertainty around the Seattle's quarterback situation, Flacco's been chucking it 45 times in his in the starts that he's received. Um, I'll take Amari Cooper, who's off the injury report. So we'll see. Yeah, Astro, I'm not making any changes. Yes, I'm starting Brees Hall. I'm starting James Cook over those guys. I'm starting Fields over Love. You have to play for the upside. Fields is the upside play. Um, I'm going to tend to be a little bit more aggressive in the fantasy playoffs, for better or worse. Safe plays are, especially if you feel like you're trailing or if you're an underdog, safe plays are, I'm always going to, in those situations, advocate for, well, then swing for the fences, right? Swing for the upside play. Fields is the upside play. I don't think there's any need to overthink this. I would just go with Fields. I would just go with Fields. Keeping an eye on injury reports. Chris Olave will not play today. So if you have Chris Olave, get him out of your lineups. We need an alternate. We need an alternate option. He is not going to be in. So do I trust Olave? I don't have to. He's out. Make alternate plans. Make your pivots. If you're desperate for an option, Rashid Shaheed is going to play and figures to see as many looks and opportunities as he can handle. And he would be, he's a home run swing. He's a little all or nothing, but at home against the Giants, you would think that Shaheed has a chance to come through. So if you're desperate, Shaheed is probably a decent pivot with Chris Olave out. This probably opens things up for Taysom Hill. Not that I'm advocating Jawan Johnson, but he may see a few extra looks. And of course, Alvin Kamara is probably going to handle as much work as he possibly can, even more so as a pass catcher today. So Chris Olave has been ruled out. Make your alternate plans. Yep, we're pivoting off of Chris Olave. Which probably means if you have Derek Carr, unless it's in SuperFlex, you really don't feel you really don't feel confident about Derek Carr. But in SuperFlex, you may not have another choice. If Hurts doesn't play, Crumpleheads, you're still firing up A.J. Brown. He's one of those dudes where you have no choice. Marcus Mariota stinks, but I got to think he's good enough to target A.J. Brown 10 times. A.J. Brown's one of those dudes that you can't sit. If I was throwing him the football, you have to fire up A.J. Brown. He's that good. Okay. If you have somebody like Jaden Reed, yes. I mean, now the call is rather easy. Olave to the bench, Reed to the starting lineup. I like the Packers wide receivers today in a great matchup against Tampa. I like Jaden Reed. I like Romeo Doubs. I think they'll both be fine. They should both do well. Let's see. Oof, lots of guys banged up. Sorry to hear about that. You have Mitchell, you have McKinnon. I would keep that. I'm not starting Taylor. I mean, Taylor will have an increased role. No A.J. Dillon. We'll see how Aaron Jones does in his first game back. So Taylor will have an increased role, but I do think I would rock with Mitchell and McKinnon over those guys. And Chris Rodriguez figures to see, 8 to 10 opportunities. There's a chance he comes through as a desperation flex. I would fire up the guys that you have. And if Hill doesn't go, I would play Shaheed. I mean, Chris Olave's out. Shaheed is going to operate, I guess, as the team's wide receiver 1. And Derek Carr likes throwing it to him anyway. So Shaheed might have an even more increased role today. So if Hill is in, you're playing Tyreek Hill, you're rolling the dice and just hoping for the best. But if he's out, if he doesn't play, Shaheed is a good pivot. Shaheed is a good pivot with no Olave. And I would keep Mitchell and McKinnon in, just hope for the best. Let's see. You need to flex. Do you start McBride or Ridley? I really like McBride today. I like McBride more than Ingram. I would probably take Ingram out. I would put McBride in, and I would put Ridley in as your flex. That's probably where I would go. If you want to fire up Ingram, and that's just what you want to do, then I guess I would just play McBride. But personally, I would probably take Ingram out and play McBride at tight end and put Ridley at the flex. That's probably what I would do. And I'm fine with those other three guys staying in. Kyron Williams is the RB2 on the week. Consensus rankings is going to have that everywhere. Behind Christian McCaffrey, Kyron Williams is the best running back on the slate. Flowers in a great matchup, I like. Puka in a great matchup, I like. Yeah, I would sit Ingram, play McBride, and Ridley. That's just me. If you want to leave Ingram in, then I would play McBride. Yeah, Shaheed's going to be a decent option today. Where do I rank Dallas Goedert? Lower than I would lower than I normally would with this news about Jalen Hurts. Tight ends I would rather play than Dallas Goedert are, Travis Kelce, Trey McBride, Evan Engram. I prefer Engram to somebody like Goddard. Obviously, Kittle, Jake Ferguson. I'd rather play over Goddard. David Njoku, Dalton Kincaid. I'd rather play both of those guys over Dallas Goedert. I might even prefer like Cole Kmet to Dallas Goedert. Goddard is now like a low end tight end one with minimal upside. Marcus Mariota does like throwing to the tight end historically, but Marcus Mariota also stinks. So I feel very dicey about Dallas Goedert at this point. I might even consider somebody like Isaiah Likely over Dallas Goedert. Where I would probably draw the line is somebody like Dalton Schultz, who is also going to be dealing with, a bad situation in Houston with Case Keenum. I don't like Dallas Goedert right now. Not a fan of Dallas Goedert right now. He's like Dallas Goedert's like the tight end 11 or 12, as opposed to, if we had a fully healthy Jalen Hurts, he's the tight end like 6 or 7. Yeah. Yeah. Don't have Dallas Goedert very high. If you have Achane and you're between, if you have Achane and you have McBride, I would prefer Achane, I guess, over Ridley. But at this point, with how volatile Achane is, I'd probably just leave in who you have. Achane is obviously a huge home run play, but he's incredibly dicey with, having been on the injury report all this week. He's missed plenty of time this year. He's not like a slam dunk in that way. Yeah, it's hard to have any type of confidence in Achane. If he goes, he's incredibly enticing, but he's incredibly risky. He's not a slam dunk if he goes. And we will start getting inactives rolling in now that we've reached the bottom of the hour. See if there's any updates on. See if there's any updates on Achane. Still listed as questionable. Christian Watson has officially been ruled out. No surprise there. Devon Achane is active. Tyreek Hill is out. Oh, man. Tyreek Hill is inactive. For anybody who has Tyreek, he is inactive. So make other plans. Pivot off of Tyreek Hill. He is not going to play today. However, Devon Achane will play. So Iron, if you want, you're fine to fire up the Jets. You're fine to fire up the Jets defense if you want. Achane being in is good news for the Dolphins, but with Tyreek being out, that's a huge loss. They do not have the same explosive firepower that they normally would. The Jets defense is a fine option to turn to. They might not be my favorite stream. There are still other streams I slightly prefer. There's enough talent on the Dolphins offense where they're not a slam dunk, but the Jets should be decent with no Tyreek Hill for the Dolphins today. However, Devon Achane is in. I don't think I would play him if you've got other, some of these other options. I think I still prefer McBride. I think I still prefer Calvin Ridley slightly. Achane might see an increased role with no Tyreek Hill. I just don't know how much he can handle dealing with this toe injury. And that, he feels like high risk to re-aggravate something more so than your average player. With Achane being in, I don't necessarily feel super enthusiastic about him. So Tyreek Hill is inactive. Make other plans. Let's see. You have Kyler and Lawrence. Both in tough matchups. It's a true coin flip. I would say Lawrence is like maybe your safe play and Kyler is your upside play. He'll run. The 49ers do have injuries along their defense, so that could make life a little bit easier for Kyler. And he's got his wide receivers, Marquise Brown and Michael Wilson, are both expected to play. I would say Kyler is your upside play. If you think you can play it safe, you can go Lawrence. The 49ers are still a dangerous defense. Still a dangerous defense with the pieces that they do have, but they are missing some guys. Eric Armstead is out. I think Greenlaw is in, but he's been on the injury report this week. They've got a couple other guys banged up. So the 49ers are dealing with some injuries along their defense that could ease things up for the Arizona Cardinals offense. I would say Kyler is the upside play, but if you want to play it safe, if you think you can play it safe, I would go Lawrence. And yeah, I would play. I would play the Jets over the Cowboys with Tyreek Hill being out. But if you have to fire up Achane, yeah, I guess you just hope he runs around for a bunch of yards, but the Jets are able to keep the Dolphins in check from scoring too many points. So There is a middle ground there. It's dicey to have to root for very specific situations to play out to happen, but if that's your best option for the playoffs, then that's what you roll with. That's what you roll with. Taysom Hill or Njoku for your tight end option. I like Njoku today. Flacco clearly has eyes for him. Njoku is going to have a big boost, or excuse me, Taysom figures to have a larger role. Noah Olave could see increased opportunities as a pass catcher. Should continue to see opportunities as the Swiss Army knife gadget quarterback. Um, if the scoring is standard, I think I lean Taysom Hill. If there's no PPR or even half PPR, then I lean Taysom Hill because he'll get opportunities as a runner. And he might get increased opportunities as a pass catcher. He probably should with Noah Olave. Um, but he will continue to get those Swiss Army knife opportunities as a running quarterback. If it's standard scoring, I slightly prefer Taysom to Njoku. Slightly. What's up, Callie? Rice or Achan in half PPR? I I I'm inclined to say Rice. It's not a great matchup. He hasn't been on the injury report, so I just automatically feel a little bit better about him. Um, in general, in a vacuum, I'm gonna feel worse about a guy who's been on the injury report all week as opposed to a guy who hasn't been. It's not a very good matchup for Rice, um, but I feel like he's a little bit better. He's a little bit safer. He's a little bit safer, and I think that's where I would go. Achan is an all or nothing play. Like Achan is all or nothing. You're either gonna get a boom week or it's possible that he bottoms out for you. His floor is low with him being on the injury report. Um, this Dolphins offense takes a huge hit with no Tyreek Hill. They're not going to be as explosive. Um, Achan is all or nothing. I would probably lean Rice with Achan having been on the injury report all week. I obviously he might be your best option in some situations. Folks might have him as their best option, but if you've got like a healthy alternate like a Rashee Rice who hasn't been on the injury report, that's where I would prefer to go. Yeah. Would I start Bryce or Zappy? I guess I would start Zappy. Bad weather projected in Carolina for this game against the Falcons. The Panthers, as an offense, they've done nothing to instill any type of confidence. Bryce Young has looked like a little bit better these past couple of weeks, but he's still getting sacked at a ridiculous rate. With the weather, I guess I'll take Zappy. I don't feel great about either one. I'd slightly lean. I guess I'd slightly lean Zappy over Bryce Young. Waller or Conklin? I don't. Man, I don't have any confidence in Waller in his first game back, but he's clearly. I mean, he's more talented. He's more talented than Ty Conklin. I guess I would go Waller. I guess I would roll the dice on Waller. Yeah, tough call. I would go Zappy and I would go Waller. I don't love it, but that's what you're working with. And Callie, I prefer it's close. Both defenses are perfectly viable. Um, I guess I slightly prefer the Falcons. Um, the Panthers are week over week, they are the most gettable offense for opposing defenses. Um, it's like just close your eyes and play the Falcons and hope for the best. That's probably where I would go. I would slightly lean the Falcons. The Dolphins are a great option too. But Zach Wilson has been playing a little bit better recently, so I'll give the slight nod to the Falcons, although they're missing pieces along their defensive line as well. Everyone's banged up this time of year, though, so it's all negligible at this point. He hate me. Congrats on the bye weeks. That's awesome. God, I wish I had a bye week right now. I'm like, I got multiple underdog situations right now where I'm not feeling great about my chances. It's not over yet, but ugh, it's dicey. It's a little dicey. But congrats on the bye weeks. Would I pivot off of Smith for Rice or Garrett Wilson? Man. Yes. I would play Garrett Wilson over Devontae Smith. Yes. If you have Garrett Wilson and Devontae Smith with the uncertainty with Jalen Hurts' availability on Monday night, yes, I would play Garrett Wilson over Devontae Smith. I would. I would. Komet or Goddard, I would give the slight nod to Komet at this point. You have to fire up AJ Brown. You just have to. But if you've got an option like a Garrett Wilson and you can pivot off of Devontae Smith for him, you do that. If you've got decent tight end options like a Cole Kmet, I would play him over Dallas Goedert. The ancillary pieces I don't feel as good about with Jalen Hurts being on the injury report with this illness and being downgraded to questionable. I don't feel as strongly about Dallas Goedert as I did maybe 24 hours ago. I would play Kmet. I would play Kmet over Goddard. There's a lot of tight ends I would play over Dallas Goedert at this point. A couple more statuses for offensive linemen and defensive players according to Underdog Fantasy. Teron Armstead is in. That's good for the Dolphins offense and their run game. Vita Vea is in for the Bucks. That helps their defense, but they're banged up in other ways. Dexter Lawrence is in for the Giants. I guess that helps their run defense a little bit. But you're still firing up Kamara with all the confidence in the world. Denzel Ward is active for the Browns. That's a huge lift for their defense. That's a slight downgrade to DJ Moore, slight downgrade to Fields. You're still firing them up if you have both, but with Denzel Ward back and playing for Cleveland, we got to temper expectations a small amount. Jair Alexander is out for Green Bay. That's good news for Mike Evans. Xavier Howard is out for the Dolphins. Decent news for Garrett Wilson. Javon Holland is also out for the Dolphins. So Dolphins have some injuries in their secondary. You feel better about Garrett Wilson now, and you maybe feel less good about the Dolphins as a stream, as a defensive stream. Missing multiple pieces in their secondary. All right, what else do we have here? I got Rice over Achan. I got Iron. I got your questions. Callie, I would play the Falcons over the Dolphins. It's close, but I would play the Falcons over the Dolphins. I would not play McKinnon over Rice. I'll just play Rice. He might be okay, but it's a tough matchup by the numbers. I prefer the pass catcher in half PPR. I'll take Rice. Um, Full PPR, Jaden Reed or Tyler Lockett. I'll take Reed. No Christian Watson. The matchup is good. The Bucks give up a lot of points to opposing wide receivers. Lockett is either going to be catching passes from a banged up Geno Smith or from Drew Lock, who has eyes only for DK Metcalf, apparently. I'll take Reed. Reed's been more consistent this year than Lockett. We haven't seen the Tyler Lockett of old. And Callie, Flacco, I would play Flacco of those options. He's at home. Yes, there are some weather issues in Cleveland. Um, what's the latest there? Let me check. Weather.com is so freaking slow. 18 mile per hour winds. That is not great. There's a gale force winds watch. Okay. A little less than ideal. Okay, we're looking at, here's the deal with Cleveland and the weather. We're looking at a 90% chance of rain at kickoff with about 15 mile per hour winds. It looks like the storm is moving out of the area as the game moves on, though. The winds look like they could be a slight issue, but it doesn't look like it's going to keep raining over the course of the entire game. I would play Flacco. A tough matchup. Zach Wilson could be okay. The Dolphins are missing pieces along their defense, especially in their secondary. So Wilson is potentially a Hail Mary play if you prefer that. Flacco has the volume in his favor over the past couple of weeks. Again, he's tossed it 45 times in his starts, in each of his two starts. I got to think that trend continues. I would say Flacco is probably where I would go. Zach Wilson is a Hail Mary if you think you need to, the all or nothing play. I just have a hard time endorsing Zach Wilson. I would probably slightly lean Flacco. Atlanta versus Cleveland. Coin flip. I tend to lean I tend to lean the home team. Cleveland should be fine. The weather is bad enough that it could throw the Bears offense off. I'm still starting Justin Fields. I'm starting DJ Moore. I'm starting Cole Kmet over if your option is him or like a Dallas Goedert, I'll play Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet is a fine low end stream, but the Cleveland defense at home getting Denzel Ward back is probably where I would slightly lean. Plus, they were the defense that got you here. Atlanta's a good stream this week, but they're not that good themselves. They're better than the Panthers, but it's a division game on the road. It's not out of the realm of possibility that the Falcons, fall short of expectations. They're a good stream on paper. If I had them or Cleveland, I would play the defense that got me here, and that's Cleveland. Yeah, I would play Cleveland. It's close. Atlanta should be a decent stream today, but I'll play the defense at home that helped get me to the playoffs, and that's the Browns. And then, as far as the weather, again, with the weather concerns, it's going to rain in Cleveland at kickoff. We're looking at a 90% chance of rain at kickoff. It looks like the winds are going to be anywhere from 10 to 15 miles per hour. That is teetering on being a little concerning. However, it looks like the storm is going to move out of the area as the game moves on. So if you have Amari Cooper, fire him up. If you have DJ Moore, even in a bad matchup against Denzel Ward, it's his first game back. I think you probably have to go with him. He's been too good to sit. If you don't want to play Elijah Moore, fine. If you have a decent other tight end option other than somebody like David Njoku or Cole Kmet, fine. But at the end of the day, you might not have better alternate options than got two guys like that. Elijah Moore can comfortably be benched. Darnell Mooney can comfortably be benched. But I think the horses that are in this game, you probably have to just fire up. Cooper, DJ Moore. And then, of course, I'm still starting Justin Fields. Beckham, Singletary, or Antonio Gibson in full PPR. I'll take the volume here. I'll go Gibson. High implied scoring total in this game between the Rams and the Commanders. The line is 50.5 the last time I checked. It's possible it's moved over the past 24 hours a little bit, but basically, Vegas is expecting points to be scored in that game. Brian Robinson is out. Gibson figures to see a lot of pass catching opportunities. I would go Gibson over Beckham over Singletary. And yeah, Crumply, I'm still putting Cooper over Lockett. And if you have A.J. Brown, you have to play A.J. Brown. You just have to. If you have decent alternate options to Devontae Smith, I don't know what that looks like a Garrett Wilson, you could pivot off of Devontae Smith. I would pivot off of Dallas Goedert if you've got a decent alternate at tight end. But if you have A.J. Brown, even if it's Marcus Mariota, you have to play A.J. Brown. He's too good to put on your bench. You can't sit him. You cannot sit him. Baltimore or Atlanta defense. Baltimore is your safe play. Atlanta is if you need to be aggressive. You had Gibbs go. That was really good. You've got good pieces still left to go. That's good. Baltimore is your safe play, but if you think you need to be aggressive, I'm okay with pivoting to the Falcons. The Falcons are a top stream this week, but Baltimore is a defense that got you here. Baltimore is one of the defenses that helped get you to this point, and they are the better unit by far, even though they're on the road. The matchup is less than stellar, but they're good enough to come through in any situation. Devontae popped. You have to assume a big-time RB1 game from McCaffrey. Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Devontae Smith took a hit or will take a hit if Jalen Hurts is less than 100% or in a worst-case scenario can't play. If you think you can play it safe, I would play Baltimore. If you think you need to be aggressive, if you're worried about playing it safe, if you want to swing for the fences, then that would be Atlanta. Two wide receivers and a flex. Flowers, Hollywood, Zay Jones, Trey McBride, Aaron Jones. I'm not considering Noah Brown. I just can't do it. In full PPR, you need two wide receivers. So Flowers is one of them. You have to play Flowers. Like Marquise Brown, who has been on the injury report, versus Zay Jones. I guess I would take the ups. I would take the shot on Marquise Brown. Those would be my two wide receivers. I'll take Flowers. I'll take Marquise Brown, and I would play Trey McBride in your flex over Noah Brown, over Aaron Jones. I don't trust Aaron Jones today. We haven't seen him for a month. Even without A.J. Dillon, it's hard to trust Aaron Jones. He should be fine at home, but it's been an injury-riddled season for Aaron Jones, and we haven't seen him for like 4 weeks. I can't. I've always been an Aaron Jones fan. I can't in good conscience fire him up today unless I was down to like emergency options. I would play McBride at your flex and Flowers at Hollywood at wide receiver. Spears, Thielen, or Curtis Samuel. Spears Spears is in a good spot against the Texans, but this could be a Derrick Henry game if I'm not expecting all that much from the Texans offense as far as posing any type of threat. Thielen could potentially be dealing with bad weather and a bad offense in Carolina. Samuel is an intriguing roll of the dice in a matchup with a high implied total in no weather concerns. They're playing in LA. I would lean Samuel. He's a moonshot. He's a dart throw, but he operates ahead of Jahan Dotson when healthy. This offense should have to, for the rest of the season, Washington should have to be aggressive throwing the ball because their defense is atrocious. I would lean Samuel. Thielen is a floor play, but it's a low floor. I would say Samuel has more upside. Spears, Engram, Demario Douglas, or Mingo. I guess I would go Engram, which I'm not crazy about. I have been a fan of Tajay Spears, but this feels like this could be a Derrick Henry game today. The Texans don't feel like they're going to pose much of a threat on offense. Titans are probably a decent defensive stream, to be honest. The problem is they don't have a ton of talent, and they're missing pieces along their defensive line, so it's hard to have, too much confidence in them, but they're in a great spot today at home against Case Keenum. I will say that. I don't know if Houston's going to be able to get anything going on offense, which just means that they could just run Derrick Henry 30 times, and Tajay Spears is just like a change of pace play who gets 6 to 8 touches today and gives you a floor play. Engram without Christian Kirk figures to see increased volume. Demario Douglas is probably going to see L'Jarius Sneed because the Patriots don't have any other options at wide receiver. I don't love him today, catching passes from Zappy. And Mingo, forget about it. I'll take the dude catching passes from the best quarterback of this bunch, and that's Engram catching passes from Lawrence. Yeah, I'll take Engram. All right, I think I got everybody's questions. Let me know if I missed anything. I'm just double checking to see if there are any other injury updates that we need to be aware of. I don't think so. Noah Brown active, Jamal Williams active. Nico Collins ruled out. No surprise there. Okay. Yeah, I think we are completely caught up. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Let me rehash Jalen Hurts one more time. If you have A.J. Brown, you have to play him no matter what. If you have Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert, you may want to think about making other plans, especially Goedert. Devontae Smith is good enough to come through with a backup quarterback, but it's obviously significantly more dicey. And Goddard is now like teetering on like the tight end 2 board if Jalen Hurts cannot go. As for Hurts himself, he's a top 2 quarterback any given week. He's a player that I want to hold out on. If you have somebody like a Justin Fields, it's enticing, but I think I would wait on Hurts. In one quarterback leagues, Both Marcus Mariota and Drew Lock are available. I guarantee it. Lock, if Geno Smith can't go, Lock, if Geno Smith and Jalen Hurts are both out for this game, Drew Lock against that Eagles leaky secondary would be an okay pivot as a desperation play. I think I would wait on Jalen Hurts if you have Jalen Hurts and just hope that he goes. You have to play A.J. Brown. If you want to pivot off of Dallas Goedert, that's fine. If you want to pivot off of Devontae Smith, you're going to have a damn good alternate option, like a Garrett Wilson. If it's Devontae Smith or Garrett Wilson, play Garrett Wilson. If it's Devontae Smith or, you know, I don't even know. Like a DeAndre Hopkins, Jaden Reed, Calvin Ridley, I would hold out on Devontae Smith and just hope for the best as it pertains to Jalen Hurts. And then, again, obviously, this is the fantasy playoffs for you guys. It's do or die time. Sometimes you can answer your own questions by just, and of course, I see a few more questions in here, so of course I'll chime in. But in general, read your own situation. If you're and try your best. I know that it's kind of like a crutch that a lot of people lean on. Don't pay attention to projections. Oh, the computer says I'm a 60% chance to win or a 60% chance to lose. Make your own determinations as far as your lineup versus your opponent's lineup and what you think you need. If you think you can play it safe, if you are confident in your chances, you feel good about your team, maybe you had a couple guys yesterday pop, maybe you don't need to swing for the fences. Maybe you can take the safe plays. The Ravens defense over a stream like the Falcons, the Browns defense in the same vein. A Trevor Lawrence at quarterback instead of like a Sam Howell, upside stream. But if you think you need to be aggressive, if you in your heart of hearts are thinking to yourself, I need to be aggressive, I need to, I'm an underdog. Again, don't pay attention as much to the projections. The projections are just there. They're computing 1,000 different simulations, and we can't predict that any one of them are actually going to happen. You have to use your eyes, look at your lineup, look at where your advantages are, look at your opponent's lineup, look at where their strengths are. If they have more strengths than you, if you can just remember, take a step back, look at it objectively. If you can look at it without, tinted glasses, because everybody's always going to look, we always are going to look at our teams and hope, we're like, we can do this. I can win. But if you can objectively look at your situation and think to yourself, I am an underdog. I'm going to need, I feel like in my heart of hearts, I'm going to need aggressive plays to win. Then play your aggressive plays. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't take the short or don't take the safe play if you don't think you can afford to. So everybody's situation is going to always be a little bit different. Okay. So if you think you can play it safe because you've got strong options, then, you've got strong plays in certain areas and you're trying to figure out which defensive stream to go with, but you feel good about your chances, take the safe play. Take the defense that got you here. Cleveland, Dallas, even in a bad spot. Baltimore, San Francisco, even with their injuries. If you feel good about the rest of your team, play the defense that got you here. If you think you're an underdog and you need to swing for the fences, then yeah, take a random stream. The Falcons, the Titans, the Dolphins. So I want y'all to get these wins, but you know the context of your situation better than I do without spelling it all out to a T. And at the end of the day, go with your gut. I can only give you my suggestion. At the end of the day, this is your team. This is your team that you built, you constructed, that got you to this point. If you are hearing what I'm saying and you're not necessarily, vibing with it, you don't like, you're like, I don't actually don't, I really wish you were saying the other guy. If your gut is telling you to play the guy that I'm telling you not to play, then or play the guy that you want to play. Play the guy that your gut is telling you to play. I can only give you my thoughts as it pertains to each individual situation. And I hope it's helpful. But if you don't agree with it, that's okay. I'm not going to be offended. This is your team. So read your individual situations. And at the end of the day, if you're not jiving with what I'm suggesting, that's okay. Go with your gut at the end of the day. And then that way, no matter what happens, win or loss, you can't have it, it's easy to have regrets about lineup decisions. But if you go with what you think makes the most sense in your head going into the matchup, that's all you can do. That's all you can ask. So let's get these dubs. Let's see. Full PPR, start two between Rice, Waddle, Moore. Is that DJ Moore? You're playing Waddle. Jalen Waddle is a must start today with no Tyreek Hill. Waddle already does pretty well against the Jets for his career historically, but now there's no Tyreek. Jalen Waddle should see a ton of volume. And then I don't know, is that Rice or is that DJ Moore? I got to imagine it's DJ Moore. It can't be Elijah Moore. He's not in consideration today. I would give the slight nod to DJ Moore. I would give the slight nod to DJ Moore over Rashee Rice. It's not a great matchup, and the weather is less than ideal, but DJ Moore is a stud. Rice has been good. DJ Moore is a stud. Play your studs. Play your studs. Cooks or Odell in standard. I think Cooks has been on the injury report, so he might be less than 100%. I would play Odell, and it's a great matchup. The Jaguars give up a lot of points to opposing wide receivers. I would play Odell. All right, Iron, you're thinking about playing Hal again. I think ultimately I want to wait on Jalen Hurts. And I know that it sucks being on Monday night and you're going to be down to the bottom of the barrel options if Hurts is not able to play. The problem here is that Jalen Hurts any given week is going to be ranked as a top 3 quarterback no matter what, along with Josh Allen and then any combination of, Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Dak. Hurts is never going to be like, I promise you, as of right now, Hurts is never going to be considered anything less than like the QB3 on the week as far as going into any given matchup. Let me see if there are any Eagles beat reporters offering up any thoughts about this situation. Okay. For anybody who has Jalen Hurts, I'm reading for Jeff McClain. He's one of the beat reporters for the Eagles. Some context on Jalen Hurts. He is traveling with the team, so that's a good sign. But we can't predict how he'll feel tomorrow, obviously. They're being precautious. He is flying on a separate flight from the team. The expectation right now is that he could play, but he will be less than 100% with how sick he currently is. Let me see if there are any other beat reporters that are giving their thoughts on this. I don't see it. All right. I do not think as of right now you can pivot off of Jalen Hurts. If you do, that is your own call. And again, like I said, this is your team. This is your decision. This is something that you ultimately have to make the call on. If you prefer to play Hal, ideal conditions, he's playing in LA. The implied point total of that game is high. Okay, understood, heard. Um, at the end of the day, only you can make that determination for your team. I would be holding out for Jalen Hurts and hoping for the best because he's a top 3 quarterback any given week for fantasy purposes. If you want to pivot off of Jalen Hurts, I'm not gonna try to stop you. I'm just telling you that I would be hoping to wait out on him. But again, if your gut is telling you to pivot off of Hurts and go with a safer option that's playing today, because Hurts doesn't play until Monday night, go with your gut. If your gut is telling you to pivot off of Jalen Hurts, go with your gut. I don't admittedly have a situation where I need to rely on Jalen Hurts. So it's a little easier for me to say, I suppose, but I think I would be waiting and holding out hope for Jalen Hurts in a must-win situation. But if you don't want to have to pivot to Marcus Mariota or Drew Lock, or if it's a dynasty league where those guys are not available to you, then sure, you can pivot to somebody like Sam Howell. I don't love it personally, but again, this is your team. If your gut is telling you to pivot off of Jalen Hurts, then go with your gut. Yeah. Um, Sneaky pickups for week 16. I mean, like the Broncos defense, the Packers defense, there's no way to quantify that right now before this slate is played. If a player gets hurt, then that backup emerges, but we need to see how the week plays out first. But congrats on the bye week. We got to address that. There's not really, you can roll the dice on a couple of pickups if you want. I don't know who's available in your league, but we won't know that answer until week 15 clears in the event of any injuries. That's all. We got to sit one between Wan'Dale Robinson, Tucker Kraft. He might be okay against the Bucs today at home. Michael Wilson and Rico Dowdle. In full PPR. Dowdle's got a chance against the Bills. They're banged up on defense. Wan'Dale's in a tough matchup. The Saints are pretty good against opposing wide receivers, and Darren Waller is back, so that could cut into his opportunities a little bit. Kraft has a decent chance to come through today as a streaming op. No Christian Watson. And then Michael Wilson has been on the injury report. He's not played for the past month. I think I would roll the dice on the pass catchers. Since it's full PPR, I would sit Dowdle. I think Dowdle's got a sneaky chance to come through today, but I'll take the pass catchers in full PPR. I'll take Wan'Dale. I'll take Tucker Kraft. I'll take Michael Wilson. And I would sit Dowdle. Would I start Rice over Devontae Smith if I need a ceiling play? As of right now, probably. It's an all or not. It's incredibly dicey. Devontae Smith is the better talent, is the superior player. But if Jalen Hurts is less than 100%, or God forbid they have to pivot to Marcus Mariota, Devontae Smith is incredibly volatile in your lineup. I guess I would go Rice. It's not a good matchup by the numbers, but he's the only reliable wide receiver that the Chiefs have. I would go. Yes, I would. I will tell you, I don't have a ton of confidence saying yes to this because obviously things could change in the next 24 hours with Jalen Hurts and his status. But as of right now, if you think you need an upside play and you can't play it safe, I would play Rice over Devontae Smith. Yes. Um, and yeah, so if you have Jalen Hurts, but you had other options pop, Ty Chandler did very well for you yesterday. The Raiders defense crushed it for you on Thursday night. If you feel good about the rest of your lineup, if you feel good about your options, if you feel good about your chances, if you feel good about your matchup, yes, I would wait on Jalen Hurts. In a worst case scenario, you pick up Mariota or Drew Lock. I would prefer in the event that Geno Smith also can't go for Seattle because he's questionable. I prefer Drew Lock to Mariota. But if you are feeling very strongly about your chances, given some of your performances from the past couple of days, I would wait on Hurts and hope for the best. Yes. 2 or Levis? Man. Tua obviously takes a massive hit. Uh, Tua takes a massive hit without Tyreek Hill, and it's not a great matchup against the Jets. Levis is a little bit more of a streaming option. He's at home. The only issue with Levis is potential game script. If Houston can't get anything going on offense, which is totally possible with Case Keenum, then they might just run the ball 35 times. That being said, I think I would roll the dice on Levis. Tua is volatile and trending down with no Tyreek Hill. I think I would play Levis. I think I would play Levis. It's close, but Tyreek being out and Achane being probably less than 100%, I feel less good about Tua. I like Jalen Waddle today, but with no Tyreek, I'm not feeling as strongly about Tua. Waller or Taysom Hill? I'll go Taysom. Even in full PPR. He figures to see an expanded role with no Chris Olave. We haven't seen Waller for like 2 months. First game back, tough matchup on the road. I'll take Hill. There's going to be more work available with no Chris Olave, so I'll take Taysom. Taysom or Goddard, same. I think I'm in the same place. I think I'm going Taysom with this development with Jalen Hurts potentially playing less than 100%, potentially not being able to play at all tomorrow night. There's nobody I feel worse about than Dallas Goedert. He was already teetering as is. He has not had a great season, but if he's got to be catching passes from Marcus Mariota, forget it, man. Mariota for his career likes throwing it to tight ends. The problem is Marcus Mariota just flat out stinks. He stinks. I do not. Goddard for me of all of the options in the Eagles offense right now, Goddard is the easiest for me to pivot off of. With this development with Jalen Hurts potentially not being able to play, and if he does, he's less than 100%. I'll take Taysom Hill over Dallas Goedert. Yeah. I do not feel good about Dallas Goedert right now. I don't. And then Ford or Chuba. Yeah, Ford's got the Bears, who have been playing a lot better on defense recently. Chuba has the Falcons. They've been stingy against the run all year, but they're missing multiple pieces along their defensive line. I think I would lean Chuba because he's going to get the volume, right? Ford is in a committee, and that doesn't mean that he can't come through. But Ford is the one who's in an actual committee. Chuba is the one who is getting all of the opportunities now. 23 carries last week, 25 carries the week before that, 19 total opportunities in week 12. They have moved away from Miles Sanders. The Panthers have. Chuba's going to get the rock, and he's going to get the volume. I would play Chuba over Ford. Ford might be a better player, but Kareem Hunt is continuing to get opportunities. It's a full-blown committee in Cleveland. Carolina has moved away from a committee. They're not using Miles Sanders. It's been Chuba the past 2 weeks. He's got 50 opportunities the past 2 weeks combined. I would play Chuba. All right, guys. We are at the end of the chat. I will hold for another minute or so. If there are any other last minute questions, but I got to get myself ready for this slate. So I will be shutting this down shortly. Appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out today. Best of luck to everybody. Obviously, this is what we play for. Pat yourself on the back for making the playoffs first and foremost. It is an accomplishment to make it to the playoffs. Obviously, you want to win your matchup, but the fact that you're playing today, no matter what, means you built at least a pretty good team, and you can hang your hat on that. So congrats to everybody who made it. Best of luck in your matchups today. I will be back on Tuesday for Week 16 waiver wire, 6 p.m. Eastern. Just a heads up, next week I will be traveling for the holidays, so I will not be doing any live streams beyond Thursday. You can get me in Discord. I'll be available in Discord next week as I can. Second link in the description of this stream and all of the videos on this channel. So if you have any questions for me on Saturday or Sunday prior to the slate next week, Discord is where you'll be able to find me best. I will be traveling for the holidays, but I will be available for Tuesday and Thursday this coming week. A.J. Brown, Puka, Drake London. You're sitting Drake London. Easy call. Play A.J. Brown. He's a stud. Play Puka. He's in a great matchup. London does terribly on the road this year. Just look at its home road splits, and the weather's expected to be bad. I don't want to play Drake London today in any situation. A.J. Brown and Puka. Slam dunk for sure. All right. That will do it for me. Again, best of luck in your matchups. You can hit me in Discord with any last-minute thoughts or questions. Second link in the description of this stream and all of the videos on my channel. Best of luck, everybody. Thank you guys for coming in and hanging out. Let's get these playoff wins. I will see you guys next week. Thank you.